Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
There's a strange woman by Donald's side. Do you know who she is? Strange brew in primary politics. We've got the breakdown from Wyoming. What do you want to call him, a native? Well, he lives there. We'll talk about that. The debt's out of control, if you haven't heard, and all kinds of interesting headlines with the education department. I thought we abolished that thing. Wasn't that the promise? Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman. I've got Eldon Stahl with me, well-known field coordinator for the John Birch Society, jbs.org or thenewamerican.com. Both sites work. Both sites have fantastic educational solutions-oriented information. Eldon, welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you, Sam. It's great to be back.
All right, I don't know how to respond to this, but everybody had their primaries recently here. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of states over the last several weeks and months. And the liberals are doing way better than we thought. The flat-out blatant communists/socialists, in my opinion, have done quite well. The headline from your great state of Wyoming says, mainstream conservative triumph in Wyoming primaries, rejecting an ultra-conservative slate. So it depends on how you define conservative. You had the real conservatives, and then you had the mainstream conservatives. So I don't know if I want to call it MAGA versus old-school Republicans, George Bush-esque versus Donald Trump, or how we want to pitch this, but it didn't turn out as well as people had hoped. Eldon?
Yeah, basically what happened was, at least as far as I could tell, the media that gets to the average person in Wyoming put forward a narrative that was a bit inaccurate, but they decided to say that somehow the Freedom Caucus was a threat to whatever people hold dear, and that we needed to get back to more reasonable people that had controlled this state legislature and other offices for years and years, decades, and make sure that Wyoming is somehow not going to go and embrace liberty, I guess. So we lost a lot of good people, especially in the legislature, and that's going to take a while to claw back. So and we're working on getting committees all over the country, or all over the different counties to educate the voters so that, we can become the media and help people understand how these new people are most likely going to vote. I think there's going to be a lot of bad bills coming out of the House again. And the Senate never was that great. So,
where I'm going with this is I look at George Washington's farewell address, and he warned against partisan politics. He warned that, you know what, that will destroy the country if we let it. The good old boy network will be greater than the vote for the sacred cause of liberty. Individuals will be slaves to the party, and what you'll get is factions. And now what you've got is these factions in the Republican Party, these factions in the Democratic Party. The Democrat, old timers, you've got three schools. You've got the, yellow dog Republicans, which are quite conservative in a lot of ways, really old school Democrats, really old school Democrats. Then you got the Democrats that are more the Bill Clinton-esque, which they're not conscientious of spending, and they're more center, and they're not great, but they're liberal, and they're extreme, but they're not as bad. And then you've got the flat-out socialist communist branch of that. So now you've got three kind of factions in the Democratic Party. Now you've got two main factions in the Republican Party. You've got the George Bush / Ronald Reagan-esque style old school Republican, and now you have the MAGA, quote, Donald Trump-esque new school Republican. And then you have real conservatives, and that's why the headline for this says, mainstream conservatives triumph in Wyoming's Republican primaries, rejecting ultra-conservatives. And so this is interesting. They say Wyoming's Republican voters emphatically rejected ultra-conservative candidates in the state's primary, choosing otherwise mainstream candidates instead. Now, you and I wouldn't call them ultra conservative. You and I would call them constitutional conservatives or honorable Americans. But the way they're pitching it is, hey, you got the good guys. Man, I'm glad they stopped those extreme whacked out conservatives kind of pitching in the headlines. It's dishonest. It isn't true. They say this significant shift marks a rejection of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus hard right agenda, see, which included expanding private school vouchers and banning abortion pills. Wow, yeah. Major defeats were handed to high-profile caucus members. It goes on. It's a big, long article, but at the end of the day, it's basically just bashing conservatives and saying, thank heavens these mainstreamers got into office. It's going to be a disaster in Wyoming. Wyoming was one of the most conservative states with a great trajectory. Here's the question for you, Eldon. Was this a repudiation of Donald Trump and company?
No, this was more inside state stuff, really.
What you're saying is they're bringing big money to the table,
yeah,
and that's
there
changing
were
the
a lot
game?
of outside PACs that came in and poured money. One of them actually was Americans for Prosperity. Now, the Wyoming chapter endorsed all kinds of people that were actually pretty, I would say, liberal, pretty. Some people like to call them moderate or progressive, running as Republicans, and it was across the board. AFP was endorsing people and spending money promoting people that were really not good at all. One prominent example would be Julie Jarvis over in, I believe it's in Casper. She scored almost the worst, and that's saying quite a bit. She scored worse than quite a few of the Democrats. She was really bad. So as far as the freedom perspective, but they wanted her back. But there were other groups as well.
There's an interesting bunch of headlines that relate to this, and we're seeing it all over the country. The best one I've found to highlight the problem that we're seeing all over the country really is in Alaska, where they document it quite well. But it relates to all the other states, and I'm considering Wyoming and everything else to be the case. You got these factions where the center part, the George Bush-esque Republicans are winning, and then the extreme socialists are winning. And so what you do is you gut out the middle there. You go back to old school Republican insider politics. You go to extreme Democratic communist / socialist, and between the two, they can fight it out. And the conservatives are gone and the moderates are gone. Yeah. And that's kind of where you get, which is going to be a massive leap to the left like you've never seen before. But here's the headline from Alaska to make this point, Eldon. Strategic spending surge, how election meddling tactics in Alaska's primaries could shift Senate power. Now, it's an interesting headline here, but they basically talk about in the run-up to the Alaskan primary, you had this crazy political ad spending. And it highlights a controversial strategy aimed at influencing electoral outcomes. Super PACs have been pumping funds to bolster, listen, fringe candidates, they say, in an effort to shift votes from true major contenders. With $800,000, for example, spent by Fair Deal Alaska, that's a PAC, they basically manipulated this to where, hey, the well-known people get kind of ignored. The people that might have a great chance get buried by this money. And as these maneuvers unfold, the integrity and the predictability of Alaska, now put your own state's name in there, Wyoming, etc., are tested with serious possible national consequences for U.S. Senate control. And it's a big, huge article, and it basically says, hey, you've got outside money now that's so illegal, so blatant, so in your face, manipulating elections, that it's going to be the future that's going to destroy all honest or real or accountable voting on the local level. So you can work on the whatever bill to make everybody show ID when they vote. You can try to deal with the ballots. You can play all your games, but don't worry, we'll bury you with dark funding money, and we will make sure that we elevate our candidates to the top, and we will change the electorate while you guys work on vote fraud. We'll go over here and spend into oblivion. ActBlue has been caught spending. They had an 88-year-old lady who they say spent $150,000 over the last several years. She lives in a trailer and claimed that isn't true. She doesn't have any money. She didn't donate. So we know there's fraud, but they're continuing to use that. So you've got ActBlue, and then you've got Win Red on the Republican side, and they're all doing it, Eldon.
Yeah, it's interesting how that's going on. It's been a coordinated attack on the some people call it conservatives, liberty-minded people. Things don't happen in politics by chance.
All right, we'll talk more in seconds with Eldon Stahl, well-known field coordinator for the John Birch Society, thenewamerican.com. I'm Sam Bushman. This is hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. We give it to you straight right here on your favorite news the networks refuse to use solution.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit american-heritage.org. That's american-heritage.org.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Eldon Stahl with me, ladies and gentlemen, well-known John Birch Society Field Director for the great state of Wyoming and Utah and, all over the place. Wyoming's an interesting case study because we had a real conservative leadership there, probably one of the most conservative leaderships in the whole country. And now that's all topsy-turvy because of, in my opinion, filthy dark money, Eldon.
Yeah, a lot of that coming in the state. Basically, the narrative pushed by the media dominating Wyoming was that the Freedom Caucus was this outside group that was not Wyoming enough, and that the people that followed its agenda, at least in some way, were taking input from out of state, and that we needed people that were just going to be more Wyoming, and that was about it. So the question that voters, the average voter, was trained to ask people was, "Are you part of the Freedom Caucus?" Oh no, like what a terrible thing.
Yeah,
to be
how
part
dare
of the
you
Freedom
be part of
Caucus.
freedom, for crying out loud?
Oh,
no, sir.
So,
but this is how they've been able to manipulate the
years.
minds of Americans with plenty of money, though. It's all about money, because that's where the liberals knock on doors. That's where they put out signs. That's where they run TV and radio commercials. That's where they, that's where they really tell the tale. And they've sold a bill of goods to these people to where people are now afraid of the Freedom Caucus, not really understanding the truth behind the votes, right?
Yeah, and you would ask the average person, okay, why are you concerned about the Freedom Caucus? Yeah, wouldn't really.
Well, I don't know. I just heard they're bad guys,
The media tells me I'm supposed to be afraid of them. That's it.
Didn't you hear they're the bad guys, Eldon? Didn't you get the memo, bro? Come on.
Yeah, that's about it. It's kind of strange how that has.
All right. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on Wyoming, but that's just not good.
On about that, but yeah,
because I don't know how you fight this big money stuff, this dark money. Because with money, you can buy just about anything. You can manipulate the reality, and They've got good marketing arms behind that money, and it's hard. It's hard to level with the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing is, real people talking with their friends and neighbors have more influence over the television or the radio or this or that, because it's face to face.
I agree 100%. That's if good neighbors stand up, though, right?
Go over.
Go ahead, sir. Oh, in my opinion, I think Eldon's right that, face to face, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, that's where trust happens. But you know what? That's if enough Americans actually understand, and if enough Americans are willing to speak up. Because if they do, then it can make the big difference, and if they don't, then it's a serious problem. Because no one's speaking out, and all they hear from is the mainstream press. All right, Donald Trump names Heidi Overton to lead the FDA. I'm moving to a different topic, Eldon. Sorry we lost you on that. Heidi Overton now is going to lead the FDA. Is that a good sign?
I wish I knew more about her. I'm sorry. I should have come more prepared on that one.
Well, let me tell you this. I'll give you a little tidbit on her, and then I can tell you right now it's not a good thing, and here's why. President Trump nominated White House domestic policy official and physician Heidi Overton to become the FDA commissioner, replacing Marty McCary, who resigned in May. Overton's appointment requires Senate confirmation. But the reason I say it's not good is, again, we're getting another government insider. Just, we're moving the chess pieces around inside the administration. But see, I want new blood. I want somebody that we can say, hey, this person's solidly behind RFK Jr., or this person's solidly behind telling the truth on the Food and Drug Administration, calling a halt to the con game. But if you've got this White House domestic policy official, that alone tells me, oh boy, right? I mean, is this person going to be solid? I don't think so. So your thoughts?
Yeah, right. Well, right. You wonder if, we got RFK Jr. in there, and he's head of Health and Human Services. Then under that, you've got the FDA, of course. How is that going to play out? You got to have somebody to administer things. If they're butting heads on ideas, that's going to be difficult.
People might say that I'm oversimplifying, and they may be right on a factual basis, but I think reality tells the tale. Whenever you get somebody that you hear as an inside government official, and we don't know a lot about them, which means we haven't heard much about them, it tells me right there that you've got kind of problems, right? Number one, they're already an inside government official.
Yeah.
They don't stay there, if they're really, really conservative. I mean, look at Dan Bongino. He bails. He's like, I can't take it anymore. Or you never get there in the first place, for example.
Yeah.
This lady's not a pharmaceutical industry executive, so she's closer to the reform anti-establishment side than a traditional FDA insider, they say. But there's some important caveats. See, here's where it gets you, right? She's got a PhD in official investigations. She trained in general surgery over at Johns Hopkins, and she's involved in health and general medicine and such. She was a White House fellow during Trump's first term and later became chief policy officer at the America First Policy Institute. She's been the deputy director of Trump's White House Domestic Policy Council. So now there are several indications that she's not a normal FDA insider, but she's worked on policy decisions like patient's choice, price transparency, putting healthcare decisions more directly into consumer hands. And, so that's good. But she's also deeply involved in Trump's current health policy agenda. And she's involved in the changes related to Donald Trump's changes in vaccine policies. And she's supposed to push this agenda for Donald. Increase scientific discovery, treatments, and cures. Interestingly enough, she's not simply an RFK Jr. puppet, The Wall Street Journal reports that Overton has resisted or expressed reservations about some proposals by Kennedy, including loosening marijuana rules and promoting psychedelics. Some MAGA activists don't think she's sufficiently, aggressive enough. Anyway, so there you have it. She spent a lot of time inside government and White House policy circles, and we don't yet have an FDA record showing how she's going to handle a lot of this. Anyway, there you go, though. But she's basically a government insider. She's been there for a long time. And if you can last in government for a long time, no offense, but I'm telling you, you're probably not one of the good guys. Because you don't stay there if you are really, Eldon. Am I crazy with this assessment?
A lot of times it's accurate. It's not 100%, but it's something to consider, certainly. So
yeah, I'd like to name the most conservative person that's been there for a long time that we can think of. Ronald Reagan.
Well, Ron Paul was there a long time, but
Ron Paul was there for a long time. That's right, and he was well known. And this is my point: he was well known as Dr. No. He was well known as somebody who stood on principle and wouldn't cave. And that's my point: is if Heidi was that way, she would be well known, just like Ron Paul was. So, can you be there for a long time? Yes, but you're going to get the badge of courage, is what I would call it. Some people would say the kiss of death. The term Dr. No. But at the end of the day, you don't remain silent and quiet if you're one of the good guys. It just doesn't happen. Anyway, there's another guy now, a former Fauci advisor, pleads guilty to conspiracy. He hid COVID records. Former NIH official David Mourns pled guilty to conspiring to hide government records involving communications related to COVID research. So this guy basically covered it all up, got caught, and now he's busted. But of course, it doesn't touch Fauci. See?
Mm-hmm. He's the fall guy, in other words.
So I wonder what this lady over at the FDA can do. Can she up the ante on Fauci, do you think? Think Heidi will get her done?
I wouldn't hold my breath on that, but, it seems like it's
anyway,
hard
very interesting. I just wanted to bring that up because that's some of the behind-the-scenes things that are happening in the Trump administration. Also, Trump announces 9 new federal judiciary nominees ahead of the midterms. President Trump unveiled 9 nominees for federal judgeships as administration and his Senate Republicans work to fill vacancies before the midterm elections. You think we're going to get some good guys in there this time?
Well, we'll see. Sometimes that's the thing that Trump has tried to have most as his legacy, because it's in a way most within his control, although it does take Senate confirmation. Generally, these are going to come through in the Senate, but so far as pushing the legislation, it's been pretty difficult for the president. So he's done a lot of executive orders.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's particularly difficult for the president or he just doesn't want to wrestle with the hog, so he just does what he does. I just don't know, because as far as I understand, Mike Johnson is supposed to be his buddy. I mean, they could be working together and pushing a lot of this and standing tall and letting the people know so we could back their agenda. But the problem is I don't hear much about it. I just hear Congress is on recess and Donald's doing executive orders. That's all I hear.
Yeah, and over the years, this is a long-standing problem. Congress and unfortunately the people have allowed Congress to give away and delegate major authority, which should be accountable to people, but which has become not accountable to the people. So,
all right, amen to that. The Honest Money Report coming up straight ahead on Liberty Roundtable Live, ladies and gentlemen. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. We'll tell you all about it with our buddy Heath Perkins, well known. He's been working with the Rust family for a long time, helping people understand precious metals. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. So check that out. The U.S. debt surges. Interest rates are possibly going up. It ain't looking good, ladies and gentlemen. We'll tell you all about it in mere seconds. I am Sam Bushman. I've got Eldon Stahl with me, well-known John Birch Society leader, JBS.org, thenewamerican.com. I'm Sam Bushman. God save our constitutional republic.